My name is Laird Klingler. I'm a librarian with the Cornish Historical Society. The date is December 15th, 2016. We're at the town office, second floor, where the Historical Society has mounted an exhibit, and we're here to interview Leland Atwood. Billy Scharf will be doing the filming. Leland, thank you for coming, and could we start with where and when you were born?
I was born December 17th, 1940 in Hanover.
Now, you grew up in Cornish Flat.
Yeah, I've lived in Cornish all my life.
All your life, yeah. I want you to talk generally about the industry and the commercial activity at Cornish, but we want to start with your father, because your father had the Atwood garage.
Right.
Now, you've brought a number of really nice photographs here. Here's one. This is the earliest one we have. This is from 1936, and this shows your father,
right,
standing in front there.
And that's a gas pump with it. You had the hand pump. It wasn't
hand
an electric
yeah.
pump.
Okay. Now here's a very nice photograph. This shows the garage,
Mm-hmm.
and then the store next to it was
the post of the store.
And what kind of store was that?
It was a regular store. He had gas, and then he had groceries and anything that you needed, and get in the store.
So you had two gas stations right next to each other.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Then you had the third one at that time on School Street. The store had gas too on School Street.
Okay. Here's another. This is another nice photograph here of the Atwood garage.
I think that's the one. That's the one when they had both high test and regular gasoline with electric pumps.
Really? And here's one. Leland brought this one. Showed that we did have a lot of snow.
I'd say that was probably in the 50s.
50s?
It had to be, because the garage, that building was built in the mid 40s, and that was after they built the garage.
And here, now this one. Tell us about this one.
This one, that was a picture when he first built the addition of a new building. That was in the mid 40s, because it shows a picture of me there, and I'm not very big, so I'd say it was probably 46, 47. He built that building right after the
That's you in the picture?
Right.
Okay. I think that's another one there. Tell us, I'd like to know more about your father, about his activities, because he was very active in the community.
Yeah, he was a fire chief when they started the fire department, and I think he was fire chief for around 30 years till like 1973. And then he was also supervisor of the checklist for quite a few years. I don't know how many on that. And then he was just involved in other things. He was involved in the fair for a few years when it first started, and he had his business there. And
what did Cornish do before there was a fire department?
I guess they used to call Klingler.
Klingler
would come, and then the people would get together. But I say that was before my time.
These are some pictures that Leland brought for the fire department. Now,
right. That's the first fire truck that they had when they first formed the fire department in 1943, I think it was, and that was a truck that they built themselves.
Okay. And this one?
That's the first manufactured fire truck they ever had. I think that was 1953. They paid $8,000 for it when they bought it then. It was made down in Topsfield, Mass. By an outfit called Wood Engineering.
Took them a while to pay it off, huh?
Yeah, they had to go 2 or 3 years to pay it off.
Okay. Now, tell us about this building.
That's the highway garage and fire station that they first had in Cornish up there. That was probably I think the plaque, I just barely remember them building it. I think it was built in 1946. And then in 1962, the firemen put another bay on the end of it for they could have a tanker truck. Okay. The town raised the money, and the firemen built the building with their own labor at no charge to the town.
And this is the site now where the present fire department is located. And just to stress again, where your father's operation was now, that's now Dingy Machine.
Right.
For that. Now, talk a little bit about another commercial activity in town would be the Thornton store.
Right, that was on School Street right there, and that was the store, and the post office was there until in the early 50s, and then they went over where the present store is now, but it was a lot different building that was there now. The main building that they built is still there, but they've added on both sides of it and on the...
But when Thornton had this, it was a store and post office.
Right. And then also when he went over on Route 120, there was the store, he had the post office over there until he sold the building. Then the other people that bought it ran it there for a while. Then when they sold the store, they took the post office down on the Stage Road, Plainfield Stage Road there now. And it'd be the last house on the left, and they had it on the porch. And it was there until they built the post office that they have now.
The Thornton store that we showed here before, that's where Hannah Shadd had her antique store. Now, the Hampshire house burned in 1927. That was before your time. And then when you were growing up, there was nothing there then.
No, it was just a cellar hole with brush and stuff in it until he built the store there in the mid-50s.
Thornton did that.
Yes.
Yeah. Then, I guess there were other owners. Then Powers came in.
Oh yeah, Thornton sold to Magoons, and then Magoons sold to, I can't think of the name of the people that he sold to. The people he sold to, their son is the one that runs Murden Garage now, Claude up there runs Murden Garage. When they had the store, he was probably 10, 12 years old and lived there. Then they sold to Farnsworth, then Farnsworth sold to Powers.
Now,
then Powers put on all the additions.
The buildings that we see today is pretty much what Powers would have done.
Yeah, the original building there, but Powers built on one end is when they first had a bank in Cornish that came there. The Klingler Savings Bank was there before they went over to where they closed this year.
So there was a bank at the end of the building?
At the end of the building.
Klingler Savings Bank
yeah,
was there?
It's right in that building, right at the end of that porch. Yeah. And then there was, they had all their clothing stuff, but the Powers put on 2 additions onto the original store. Plus Magoons built the house on the back end, which is now an apartment.
The apartment part?
Yes.
I see. So when you were growing up, actually there were general stores.
Right.
There was a garage, a gas station. So could you do a lot of your shopping then here?
Oh yeah. When the store was over there on School Street, he sold grain and he sold anything. You could buy roof and shingle from him. He had nails and clothing. He had Carter overalls and all that, their coats and stuff like that. You could gloves and everything.
Now you were growing up. You went to one-room schoolhouses for most of your education here in Cornish. Tell us about that experience. Tell us where were the schoolhouses that you went to?
The first one I went to was on School Street where the Masonic Hall is now. I went 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade there. And then 4th and 5th grade I went to South Cornish. That's the old schoolhouse. It's the building right opposite Jackson Road on 120, where Jackson Road comes out on 120. There's was a school there, and I went there. And then that was 4th, 5th, 6th grade. I went down onto the center school, and that's where Doug Freeland lives now. And then 7th grade, I went over to Tracy School, what they call Tracy School, and that's just up above where Peter Burling lives now. And then 8th grade, I went to the school here. I call it the new school. I was the first class to graduate, but it's a lot more building. When I went there were only 8 rooms in the building in the cafeteria.
There was no gymnasium, probably.
No gymnasium, none of that wing down there neither. There was just 8 classrooms and the kitchen and the cafeteria and an office and 2 offices. One was for the nurse and the other was the principal's office, which the principal was also the 8th grade teacher.
So you were the first graduating class?
No, I think in that year there was like 240 children in the school.
Wow.
And there were only 8 rooms up there. Oh. And then from there I went to Stevens High School in Claremont.
tell us a little bit about Claremont at that time, you know, when you went there.
Oh, it was a real busy town. What I mean is that everybody come there from all around, like Springfield, Windsor, Newport, and even Lebanon, Canaan, and Enfield. It was a shopping area of this whole part of the state. They had Montgomery Wards, they had Sears, they had Fishman, Newberry's, and Woolworth stores, you know, and then they had some big local department stores. On Pleasant Street, I think there was like 2 hardware stores and everything. Then there was 2 or 3 big grain stores there. There was Merrimack Farmers Exchange, which is a big grain store. That's part of Blue Seal now. And then there was also Eastern States Farmers Exchange, which is part of Agway now. They both had big grain stores there.
And movie theaters.
Oh yeah, there was 2 theaters. And then also there was a drive-in too. The drive-in was out on Washington Street. The drive-in theater is out where Market Basket is now. That was a drive-in theater in there.
Where Market Basket is,
yeah,
that was a drive-in theater?
Yeah.
Amazing.
You had to go across the railroad tracks to get in there because that was the main railroad line. It went through from Claremont to Concord, down through there. I went to Newport and then on through to Concord.
Out on Washington Street?
Yeah, right along Washington Street there. That's where the railroad, in fact, where Reed's garage used to be. You can still see the big railroad bridge there where they crossed the Sugar River going into Claremont.
Quite a change
Right.
today in Claremont, isn't it? Yes. Yeah. Well, you graduated from high school. I do want to ask you about meeting your wife, but tell us about your education then.
You know, after I graduated from high school, I went to New Hampshire Technical Institute in Manchester, which is now it's called New Hampshire Manchester Community College is what it is now. It's a lot bigger now. And I got an associate's degree in building construction.
When did you meet your wife? Or when did you start your family? And,
I met my wife in, I think it was 63, 64.
was that after you finished schooling? Or?
Oh, yes. I met her through my, he's my brother-in-law now, through her brother. We was we done basic training together in the Army. And so I met him through her, and then we got married in 69.
Did you go to the Army after school? After your school?
After school, yeah.
And how long were you in?
I had 6 years all told with the reserves.
With reserves.
Yeah.
So then you married and you started your family. You know, and then did you build a house on School Street where you live now?
Yeah, it was a contractor was building it, and we bought it, and then I finished off, changed over the things that I wanted on it, but it was pretty ready to live in. In fact, I moved into it before we was married. I moved in like May, and we got married in September, so I had to finish it off after we got there.
Now you raised the I know you have one son.
And I have a daughter too.
A daughter also?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Your son lives in the flat too?
Yes, he built a house on East Road right out behind mine. In fact, his house lot come off of where my lot is. Both originally they was in the same piece of land. It was the same farm that owned them, but it got split up, and that farm now has got, it was a farm right there in the village. There's like 1, 2, 3 houses on the field, and then there's like 1, 2, 3 houses, I think, on the side hill, which used to be the pasture that went with the house.
Now, let's move now to your vocational career. Mm-hmm. You know, the type of the work that you did.
I worked a little bit when I first got out of school for a contractor for a little while, for a few months. Then it come fall, and we got laid off for the winter because there was no carpenter work. So I had a chance to go work for the state on the road crew plowing snow for the winter. So I went to work for them, and I stayed there and kept getting up to where I wanted to go. It took me 4 or 5 years, and I started out. I spent 2 winters on the road crew. Then I went from there to the rest area in Lebanon as an information center attendant. I was on the first crew when they opened that on 89 right there in Lebanon, the big rest area. They used to open, it was run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They had 4 permanent people there, and I was one of the original ones on that. Then I went from there to survey crew, and I worked on the survey crew for a couple years. Then I went over to the bridge department, and I spent the rest of my time with the bridge department. I had, 8 years as a bridge construction foreman, and then I had the last 11 years as a bridge construction superintendent.
Any particular bridges that you worked on that you could remember?
Oh yeah, I worked on a lot. I've spent a lot of time on the Cornish Windsor Covered Bridge.
Were you involved in the restoration of the bridge?
No, that was all done by a contractor.
Did you have to inspect it, or?
Yeah, well, we went down there some to help them move, but that was all went out to a bid. But we worked on it when they had repair work. We had to go down there one time and reboard the sides of it because the ice had knocked off the boarding on the.
This was before that restoration?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've worked my first job as a superintendent was we built the bridge down by 12%, that one that's there right now.
Oh.
Yeah, the bridge there, we tore out the other one at half of the time and put in the bridge that's there now with all the aluminum rail and all new deck and all beams and stuff. We done that in 91, because that was my first year as a superintendent, or my first job. When I got the job as superintendent, they had the bridge half ripped out and had traffic lights and everything in, and I took over from there.
Mm-hmm. That's the covers the brook, right?
Yeah, right there in front of the store, yeah. The one where you go up the hill.
Up by the Cornish
Yeah,
Automotive,
yeah.
then, right? Before that, yeah.
Then I worked on all of them I think I've been on every one. The one right out here by this road and Center Road comes together. I worked on that one. And I worked on the one just, you can see right out here. Every one on Townhouse Road I worked on. And I think all of them on 120, but the one by Child Cemetery I worked on. And I worked all over. I spent 8 years down in the Keene area.
For the state?
So state, yeah. I had on bridges. I was on 8 years on bridges down there. But I had a total of over 38 years for the state.
38 years?
No, wait, excuse me back. That was 65. I had 36 years.
That's a long career.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, tell us a little about some of your other activities in Cornish.
Oh, I've been in the fire department for quite a few years. As soon as I was old enough to join back then, I think you had to be like 18 or 20 to get into the fire department. And of course, I grew up from my father being fire chief. I kind of grew up in the fire department anyway. So I've been in the fire department, and I've been supervisor of the checklist for, I think I started in the around 1980 in that. And I've been in the Cornish Fair.
You know, it occurs to me as you're talking that you actually have followed in your father's footsteps. Yeah. You know, with the fire department and the checklist, yeah. Right? You know, you've continued his work.
But not in the automotive business. I never cared about. I guess I probably grew up in that too much too.
You know, thinking back, you mentioned that you had graduated in the first class. In talking to other members of the community, there was contention about forming the central school. Not everyone was in favor of that. They didn't want to abandon the one-room schoolhouses. Do you recall anything about that debate, or you were pretty young still?
As I say, I remember the school meetings. They'd have, meetings. Then they had special meetings, and they had court hearings on it too, because some people challenged that some things wasn't legal and stuff. But
you recall that, yes?
Oh yeah, I can. It was kind of really people were almost not speaking to each other. So it really got kind of, not very friendly part. It was kind of a hard thing going on.
You do it. It was that way. It was that way. One of the things we like to ask is about, for people who have lived here a long time, in terms of changes. And here's a change that, now you help me here. I want that with the milk delivery.
Right here.
Okay. Now, this is the way things used to go in Cornish.
Right.
This would be a fellow delivering milk. Tell us about that.
I'd say that was in the, had to be in the late 40s. In the 40s, somewhere, probably 48, 49. That was a fellow by the name of Richard Lovejoy. And that's how he'd come around and deliver the milk every day or every other day. I think it was like 3 times a week he'd come around. In wintertime he'd come down with that rig because he'd come off of what they call Lovejoy Hill now, up there where Hires live.
Fritz Hire?
Yeah, and he had the farm up there. In fact, he is, that would have been Hires, that would be the Hires boys up there now, great-grandfather, this fellow.
Were they delivering it in bottles?
Oh yeah, it was bottles.
Bottles. Well, that sort of leads into the question of about change in Cornish.
Oh, yeah.
We always like to ask people who lived here a long time, how has Cornish changed for the better, for the worse? What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. It's hard to tell. Some days, some things is for the better, and some things maybe are for the worse. You know.
Well, tell us something for the worse.
Oh, I don't know. The people, you don't seem to know your neighbors and stuff like you used to because they don't stay here that long. But I mean, it used to be people would stay, you know, in places for years. Sometimes now people don't even stay in the place for a year, you know, or something. You're getting so you don't really know your neighbors and stuff like that. But
Do you find that with the checklist when people come in?
oh yeah, they go and, you know, like just like this past election, I think that election day we added like 50 people on the checklist that voting day in November the 8th there.
How many?
50, I think we put 50 people on that day.
Yeah.
And you probably, 30 years ago, you might put on 50 in a couple years or something, you know. And that was just that one. We probably put on a lot. You know, some people you put on now, and 6 months from now, somebody else gets the name on there living in the house where the other person was. Whereas before, people stayed for a long time. You didn't have people.
Okay, now how about Cornish for the better?
Oh, I don't know. You got better roads, and I think probably the school is better, and you know, things like that. You know, and stuff like that is a lot better. And shopping is, you got more bigger stores now, which I don't know if that's for the good or for the bad.
People, when I ask that question, people who lived there a long time often mention the roads. But now you lived on pretty much on a state road.
Right, yeah.
I mean, so you probably didn't have some of the real problems with the roads that people up in the farming and the uplands had.
Yeah, I know a lot of people on the back roads, you know, that get a snowstorm, their roads, sometimes it'd be probably the snowplow would be 8 to 10 hours from the time it stopped before their road would get plowed, you know, and stuff like that. And some people, you know, would have a different car too. They'd leave right down almost by the state road, and they'd have another one with tire chains and stuff so that they could get back to their house.
Oh, really? Yeah. And then mud season too, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, the mud season was bad too.
Yeah.
But as I say, the roads have got to be better. I couldn't find them. I had some pictures of Route 120 before it was a paved road. I looked all over for them this morning. I don't know where they were. I couldn't find them. It showed, I had one down by the cemetery there by Clark's Camp Road, and I had one in Cornish Flat, and then I had 2 or 3 that showed Route 120 where they took pictures of cars stuck in the mud.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think my father took those, but I had them here a year or so ago, and I put them up somewhere. I had an envelope with 5 or 6 pictures, and I looked through all my pictures today, and I couldn't find them.
Well, these are wonderful, the ones you brought, though. Thank you. You know, one thing you didn't mention in terms of your later activities would be with the fair. And I know you're responsible for an addition that the fair received. Tell us about that.
The what? Oh, I went to the convention out in Las Vegas, and every fair they have somebody there. They put their name in a drawing, and John Deere had given them a John Deere Gator, and they pulled out Cornish Fair in New Hampshire. And at the opening session, is somebody from that fair was at the opening session. That fair received the John Deere Gator. So they pulled out Cornish Fair in New Hampshire, and I was there, so the fair got the John Deere Gator.
That's because you were there.
Right.
And when was it delivered then?
I was in the convention. It was in November, December 15. And we got it here, I think in May or April of this year. They delivered the John Deere sent it right to their dealer, and the dealer had to service it, and they delivered it right to the fairgrounds.
And that was all because of you going.
Yeah, I happened to be there, and they just happened to pull our fair out at the session, so we got it.
I'm sure they were thrilled, the fair people, to get that. Well, thank you. Very interesting. Thank you for coming. And is there anything in conclusion that you'd like to add, or that we haven't covered?
No, I think we've covered pretty near everything, I guess.
Oh, well,
Ran along here, or kept chatting along.
No, it was very, very interesting. Thank you very much, Leland. And Billy, at the end, we always like to say this at the end of an interview. Okay, Billy, that's a take.